Happy New Year! It is 2023. It is the first stream of this wonderful new year. I can't believe I remember how to even start the darn streams. It's been so long. But I am greeted with my co-hosts as always. We have Jimmy and Ben from Star Wars Timeline joining us off to kick off this. This is going to be a very packed year for Star Wars. We'll talk about that a little bit. We've already got it started with a new show, but before we get into all of the goodness with the Bad Batch, let's go around our little triangle here and check in how the crew is doing. Jimmy, let's start with you, my man. How was the last couple weeks for you? How's your new year started?
I have been so busy. I know a lot of you guys knew in the end of November, I started a new job. It has gotten easier. It's still a lot, but I'm not hating it. I'm liking it so far. I don't feel as stressed about it. I had good Christmas. I got a lot of great Star Wars stuff, including this Mos Eisley shirt.
Looking good.
Can't see it at the very. It's got like a. So it's made up to look like a bar, like a cantina. So it's got like a little slogan at the bottom of the shirt. It says, "We're our friends don't like you, and we don't like you either." So it's really cool. Fun. I'm just happy to be back on the streams, back to a regularly scheduled upload time. It's great.
Yeah.
And Star Wars is here. It's Star Wars season again.
It is Star Wars season again. It feels like it's been it feels like it's been an eternity, but also not that long. So Ben, down to you. I know you spent the end of your year, did a little traveling before the holidays, and then stayed at home. How was your little holiday season?
Oh, it was great, man. Just spent it with family, had lots of good time, but I decided to give myself a little present. I said, Ben, since you're going to stay mostly home around this time, how can I treat myself? So I got myself this crazy fat book in the history of Japanese RPGs, nothing related to Star Wars.
I thought you were going to go somewhere with that.
Yeah, it was just unplug a little bit. It was just like, you know what it is? It almost felt like I just turned on my night lamp. It almost feels like that kid sitting by the fire in the Never-Ending Story. Just reading, man. Nice, regular,
never-ending story.
Actual pages, never-ending story style. Just flip the pages. It kind of feels nice, man. After watching all of these shows, Star Wars stuff, reading a lot of things, checking out audiobooks like you suggested, it's kind of nice to come back to real physical books and just experience that for a while.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I introduced Gail to The Mummy recently. She loved it. We watched the second one too. She's like, yeah, the first one's way better. It's kind of getting me back into Egyptian mythology and Egyptology. I used to like that stuff as a kid. So now I'm on Amazon, looking at all these books.
That's fun.
Right?
Well, very fun. I'm glad everyone, and I hope you all chat as you come throughout the evening. I hope you guys had a nice time. I always get, it's always a sad time of year for me, actually, after the holidays. I love the holidays, but when it's over, it feels like, oh my goodness, you have a whole year ahead of you. It can definitely be overwhelming at times. So I hope everyone is mentally energized and ready for some fun. And a nice way to start off the year, at least for me, and I assume for you all as well, was some new Star Wars. We had Bad Batch promptly. Now, this is the second year in a row that we've got Star Wars late in the year into the early next. So last year, Book of Boba Fett kicked it off in late December. And this year we had Bad Batch get it kicked off in early January. And I do think that's a nice, again, for me as a Star Wars fan, I like that. It's kind of like, okay, well, the holidays are over, but at least there's some fun to look forward to get me through my week. And that included our 2-episode premiere of The Bad Batch. Now, I have a review of my thoughts on the channel. As always, we will probably get into some spoilers. I have to be totally honest with you guys. Even if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it and come back. But honestly, you're not really going to have anything spoiled for you per se, because there really wasn't any crazy cliffhanger that's going to ruin your enjoyment of the episode if you know about it. I thought, and I'll start with maybe my opinions just briefly, and then I'll pass it around, and then we'll dive into specifics. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I am just completely blown away with how good the animation has gotten. Started with Tales of the Jedi, end of last year. This keeps that high standard. It just looks absolutely phenomenal, from the particles in the air to the brushed metal to the paint chipping. I mean, it just looks so darn good. And so I wanted to just say that because I'm sure I'm going to repeat it all night. It was just absolutely gorgeous. This to me as a premiere did not hit the amazing premiere of season 1. Season 1 had maybe one of the best episodes of like an animated Star Wars show. So good. This was not quite as emotional, but I thought it was a really solid start. It felt like the same kind of quality, the same kind of storytelling we saw in season 1, but maybe not quite the high stakes that we were exposed to off the bat, which I think is okay. I think it's good to kind of dip our toes back in. So that was kind of my opinion. I know Ben has his review, so I guess we'll pass over to Jimmy, because Jimmy, we haven't heard any of your thoughts. What did you think about this first 2 episodes and Bad Batch world?
Thought the Bad Batch world is my favorite world. I thought this was actually the best way to open this season. I was looking through Twitter, seeing what other people were thinking. I saw one person say it was very mediocre. I'm not sure how, but I want to tie that in with you, Josh, saying that it wasn't anything spectacular, which I think is important to note, because I did not feel like this was the opening of season 2. This truly felt just as a continuation.
I agree. Yeah.
Like they didn't waste any time trying to like reintroduce everybody. You know, it just kind of like, we're still going where we left off last time. Yeah. Obviously I think they mentioned there's like a year that's passed between the two, between season 1 and 2, because they've been hiding after Camino. But I don't think we need anything grand to start off this season, especially since I think it's only going to get worse, like stakes wise. It's going to get really up there this season, especially just because of the titles that have been put out. But I thought it was a fantastic way to regroup everybody. I got big Pirates of the Caribbean vibes in the opening of the first episode. Them just running out and then a bunch of crabs coming after him. I thought that was awesome. Omega's new look is fantastic.
Yeah, she looks good.
I told Gail, I was like, she's growing up. Her hair's growing out. I feel like a proud dad.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I love this new character working with Sid, voiced by Wanda Sykes. I'm very interested to see what she's going to be about. But overall, I think cool setting for being on Sereno. Really interesting ties to the Clone Wars with talking about Dooku and all that. And I love that line, when that older man they find, he's like fixing that data box. He's like, oh, it's a separatist box. He's like, no, it's Serenian. We were here before them. You know that, right? I was like, I like you.
That was cool.
Everything, I think it was a good start for where we're at. It feels like this was like after the mid-season break almost, not necessarily a season.
No, I get it. Yeah. I'm highlighting this comment because it did make me laugh. I had a similar comment. So, we just watched Tales of the Jedi, which gave like Dooku this really like sympathetic like backstory. Yeah. And we're all out here like Dooku did nothing wrong. And then like the first episode of Bad Batch is like Dooku subjugated and stole our money and exploited the poor. It was like, oh, it was like, oh, man. Oh, it was.
Don't meet
funny.
Your heroes.
I know, it was funny. I mean, obviously the idea, not to go too deep on that point, but obviously the idea is that Dooku, as he fell into the dark side, became more and more the very thing that he sought to destroy. Right? It fits. It's not like the dark side made him a better person. He became more and more
complex character.
Right. It fits the narrative, but it was funny because everyone left like this really emotional, little peek into Dooku's life, and then it's like the first episode of Bad Batch. They're like, yeah, Dooku, he definitely stole our money and like exploited our people. It's like, oh, I guess there was some bad to the guy as well there. So anyway, sorry to take us off there. Ben, a huge fan of animation, not just Star Wars, all animation, but a huge admirer of Star Wars animation. How did you feel about our return to the Bad Batch?
So I want to speak to the actual visual quality, what you mentioned in the beginning of the stream. I was in college studying animation when the Clone Wars series was being unveiled and it was being developed, and we all were eagerly anticipating as people who would potentially go and work in the industry. I had guys working in 3D department. I myself was studying 2D animation, and we were all wondering how it's going to turn out. And a lot of behind the scenes footage that you see of George Lucas speaking about it, how he wanted to execute and what he wanted to bring to the table, innovating animation industry in America. He said, I want to do a full animation show that has Pixar animated feature film quality to it. And when we look at the early seasons of the Clone Wars, it was unlike anything else in terms of its ambition. It was such an undertaking, and they had to develop tools to be able to turn it every week so people could turn on and watch a new episode. But quality-wise, it wasn't just there yet. It wasn't Pixar.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go back and see the movies of the day and compare the two. They won't be the same. But the point is, when you now look at the Bad Batch, man, every single episode looks like a animated feature. It looks as good as Pixar. It's just mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? Now that they're settled into their technology, it's not something explicitly visual or they're trying to wow you or blow you away. It's the minute things. It's the minutia, like when the way they go out of focus with certain characters, how they added this film grain effect to it, which it's not to bring it closer to live action, but just make it stylistically more interesting.
Yep.
So I was blown away there. In terms of the the emotional resonance with the episodes, I definitely felt it. I definitely felt that each and one of those episodes took our characters a little bit further, explored and opened up the world a little bit bigger. It gave us new bits, and it kind of like, hey guys, just wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
It didn't have that explosive wow factor of the original season premiere. And I think in the end, I actually prefer it this way, because I agree with Jimmy, because you don't kind of give people thrills every single episode. You have to have a built up. If you have a more quieter episode focused on the distant things and you slowly arrive at your highest point in the season, that's the ultimate reward. And I think this is where we're heading. So in the end, we're getting less of a premiere and more of a continuation. It almost makes me wonder, like, these episodes were produced last year and they were just basically saying, well, hold up a second. We have more things to show the audience. Let's pause with the show, put something else on, and then come back to it. It almost feels like that.
I agree. I echo what both of you say there, and I'll make maybe two just quick points before Jimmy hops in. I think the first season premiere, that was phenomenal. It's different for a first season, right? Because you have to get the audience in, you have to show them these new characters, and you can start slow and still deliver a great product. But certainly, like, introducing the audience to, hey, this is the show, setting the bar high is probably a good tactic there. And I will say, and we'll dive into some more detail here in a second. Even though I'm saying the stakes weren't as high, they did introduce some things that I really enjoy, as far as specifically character dynamics that I think they'll explore throughout the season. So it's not that like nothing progressed. It didn't have maybe the tension that some of the later episodes Bad Batch did, which makes total sense. Return. Go ahead, Jimmy. I know you want to say something.
I was just going to say, and I think it's just smart for them to start the season like that instead of starting it on a massive high note, because even when you go through the first season of the Bad Batch, a lot of the episodes that people were saying like are filler, and probably are. At the time when I was like, I kind of want to move forward in the story. But once the episode was over, I was like, this was a low point, but I see why it was important. Like this, there's a reason they did this. So I think that's just a reason, like the storytelling specifically for the Bad Batch flows so well to the point where, like, when we get to that finale of season 1, you're like, what just happened? And now, like, it's probably the stakes are only going to get higher in this season because it's probably going to be the last season. Yeah, I don't know. I certainly hope not. I want this to continue forever, obviously, but if it rounds out in this season as the last, like, it's going to be a big hitter.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be 3 seasons. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I think it feels like a trilogy, if that makes sense.
See, I think they're doing even numbers. You got no, that doesn't make any sense. There's not 8 seasons of the Clone Wars. Disregard.
Yeah, they're only doing odd numbers now.
Well, I was going to say 8, 4, 2, but there's not 8. Anyway.
It's A. I think for me, what was the most, agree with you both wholeheartedly. It just felt like a continuation. If you told me that this was like, oh yeah, this is in season 1, it was just a couple, there was a little time jump, I would totally believe it. We've seen the armor start to change, I think, in some fun ways. But what they immediately kind of brought into the fold that I was happy to see, because we didn't see a lot of this in season 1, was this internal dynamic forming with the group about what is our role in this conflict. And so they kind of immediately bring up this tension between Hunter and Echo about what are we doing? Like, Hunter is in protect mode. He's in like, hey, I want us to go be safe. I want to find a place for us in the galaxy where we can raise, and Omega can live like a normal life, and we can kind of get her out of this kind of constant war and chaos she's grown up in. And then you have Echo, who's like, hey, this is the reality of the situation. All of us were born into this. Like, we got to do our part to reclaim this galaxy, to carve out, a better universe. Like, we're not going to go hiding. We need to put them to, Oh my goodness!
What just happened?
Did we like all
We
pop
got
away for a second?
infiltrated by the Imperial probe.
Yeah,
guys.
Lucasfilm was not happy with that commentary. I might have clicked something. Sorry,
I
guys.
think we're still live, right? Everything's still
we are.
going?
We're all here. No,
You're
we're all
still
here. We're all here. We're good. We're good. But but they didn't play with that a lot in the early in season 1. They didn't really have that group dynamic where it was like, oh, they're not seeing eye to eye. They were just in survival mode. But it seems now that they've been out for a year, you're starting to have these different ideological viewpoints where Echo wants to do something, Hunter wants to keep the family safe. And I like that they've already kind of plot that in right away. You know what I mean? So I'll switch Jimmy and I back in right order there.
The probe might get you again.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, guys. Anytime I say anything slightly not
shilly.
No, not chilly. Yeah, Disney takes me out right there on the spot. What did you guys think about that? That was what really stuck out for me, probably the biggest in this episode, in these first 2 episodes. Like, oh, cool. We're gonna see the group struggling with what they should be doing at this point.
I'm glad that happened, and I'm glad it resolved the way it did, because I almost could like guess the entire plot of the season, and thankfully it was wrong because it resolved itself at the end. But it was that whole thing about the Echo and Hunter arguing, and Omega hears it. I was like, okay, this is gonna go bad. She's gonna run away. She's gonna get captured. They're gonna go after her. Something crosshair. Like I was like, I can probably guess exactly how this is gonna go. Thankfully, that's not the case. I was like, okay, cool. We're still on track here.
Like I said in my review, this episode also almost felt like the premiere, both episodes. It almost kind of hit pause on developing the Bad Batch per se, even though they had character-defining moments. But it almost felt like the second season wanted to bring itself back to the Clone Wars show and revisit Sereno, revisit Count Dooku's castle, and kind of bridge the gap and to say like, hey, by the way, Clone Wars happened just around the corner. It was just the tragedy of the Order 66 is pretty much in the air. You could still feel and see the smoke coming from it.
And to jump us far ahead to the very end of the 2-episode premiere, and the reason I'm going to take us to this ending scene is even though the episode might have had lighter stakes, the seriousness of the conflict I thought was very present. But at the end of the little finale, Rampart comes back and is like, "Hey, that's interesting. Clone Force 99 should be gone." And they're like, "No, we definitely saw them." And he's like, "Did you though?" And just shoots him and goes off that. And
I'm sorry, no, you go ahead.
No. I like that the show. I mean, that's right on brand for the Empire. That's exactly what they would do. And it's animation. They don't shy away from that. They're not like, oh, this is a kid's show. They're like, no, it's Star Wars. This is how the Empire works. And I like that the stakes are high still. People die as casualties. I mean, it is what it is.
See, and I think Admiral Rampart is a fantastic character too. Like he's such a good bad guy because like he doesn't really give off that vibe. He just kind of looks like he's just the intern, he has a very just like calm and official demeanor to him, kind of like Thrawn, but like obviously not as quick thinking, but he's more relaxed. He's like, this feels like the commander I can like approach and talk to, without like, Tarkin being like, well, get away from me. With his superiorness, he doesn't have that like big ego around him. But to your point, it doesn't really feel like a kid show. It is very much Star Wars because I knew he was going to kill him, but I thought we were going to hear a blaster bolt and it was going to cut to black and that was going to be the end. I didn't expect to watch this guy just fall off the side. I was like, whoa.
And it's expertly done because they're showing you could have a PG-13 or whatever rated show and do it tastefully and still show it if you have a master storyteller at play. Like, you don't need to go Departed style, like brains splashing on the wall or something. It just show you the tragedy of it, because when you master your craft and you're showing a scene, you build the tension moment there. Just the dialogue between the two, you could predict what was happening. They weren't even hiding it from you. I like that fact. I don't like when they just flip things on you. Oh, by the way, this guy's getting killed off. Yeah. They're preparing you for that moment. They're like, oh, no, that's one of our boys, man. That's cloners. You saw their loyalty to each other throughout their 2 episodes, even though they're on Sereno, they're doing bad things, but they're not the Imperial Stormtroopers. They're cloners. They have a set of values, and this just guy taking it for the team. I'm like, oh,
man. Nick's comment there, very interesting point. I did not think this, only because as I was like swiftly scrolling through Twitter, I saw everyone's non-spoiler thoughts before I saw it, just saying like 2 fantastic episodes, everything was great. If something happened to one of them in the beginning here, everyone would have been on Twitter being like, "Oh my god, what?" Everyone would have been like beside themselves, you know.
Yeah.
I did get there's a couple moments though I was just like, "Damn, Tex." They're pointing at something like it's gonna get sad. This season
Well,
is gonna get sad. I mean, first his leg, and then when he's trapped behind that tree, I was like, this is like Logan all over again.
well, the reason I pulled up Nick's comment before we got into it was I think a constant thought for me. I shouldn't say constant, but a definite thing in the back of my mind when it comes to the Bad Batch is what happened to our heroes? Like what happened to this crew, right? And of course, they could just be fighting as members of the rebellion somewhere in the galaxy. But I
Ooh,
I
good old bot
feel
in the chat.
yeah, I'll get that real quick. I feel like for me, that the reality is these heroes probably all don't make it, and that's really sad. I mean, that's going to be kind of hard to deal with. I think as I don't know, as we go through this show, it's just a reality of the situation.
I can see you have 2 outcomes for the batch and how everything is going to play out. We're either going to lose half of them, and it's just going to be real sad, or it's going to be something similar to the end of Rebels, where they just like get blasted off into hyperspace somewhere following an explosion. So you're just kind of like left up to what happened.
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
I would be interested to see not necessarily like our heroes dying off, but what if the show ends on a note where they all are kind of like split by circumstances and they just basically abandon the fight and disappear into nothingness, and the show ends on them basically reuniting years after and just looking at each other like, are we still doing this? What's going on here? It almost reminds me of, I don't know if you guys saw this series ending to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was very, very nostalgic. There's a lot of moments there. There was like, you almost felt like you wanted to sit next to these guys and just cry along with them. It was so emotional.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to see, because there's a camaraderie going on there. You just don't have a cast members like in a Clone Wars show. You have a group of people who are tied by, circumstances.
And it's so clever for D Bradley Baker to voice everyone, but it feels like completely different people.
Yeah, they do.
It's insane.
I got to tell you, I mean, what sticks out to me too, beyond it's something this group's talked about a million times. I mean, we're going to repeat ourselves here, but when I watch the Bad Batch, I see the quality of animation, I see the quality of storytelling. I just am like, Tales of the Jedi as well. You're like, man, we've got to go different places with this same style of the same level of quality, the same medium. I always think about, man, what stories could we tell in different eras of the galaxy that could just be so fun. So I love the fact that Star Wars animation is so closely tied to the prequel era, to my era. It's just synonymous in my mind. But I just think of all the cool places and stories we could tell with just this gorgeous medium. And hopefully it's on the cards. Hopefully it's in the cards. I hope these shows, one of the reasons I really hope these animated shows perform well is I believe there's a lot of love and time put into them that doesn't have the same draw, the same big characters as Kenobi, Mandalorian, etc. But it has, I think, all of the attention to detail and all of the passion behind it, and some really good storytelling. And I hope it gets the same level of excitement and attention from the fans. You know what I mean?
And I think it's adding to the point. Like I'm really starting to feel, and I felt this way for a while, that I guess it's called the Rise of the Rebellion. The era between episodes 3 and 4 is like becoming my favorite era of storytelling.
Cool. Yeah.
Like, Bad Batch, Kenobi, Rebels, Andor, Rogue One, Solo, all really fun and awesome stories that take place in this 19-year gap.
Yep.
Where not a lot of anything else. It's just all these smaller stories that have to build a bridge until you get to the big trilogy, and it's just such a cool buildup. And there's just so much room for interesting stories that are all very high stress situations.
Mm-hmm.
Andor's, the most recent example of how, even though the results, even though you know the conclusion, you can still tell just an incredible narrative. And so you're right. This known era of Star Wars where we know the big pieces, we know what kind of happens. They're still finding really great stories to tell. And in the Bad Batch in particular, I love watching this transition phase where the clones are being siphoned out. They're just being kind of killed off and removed. And you see the kind of the seeds of the Empire, how they were grown. I think it is very fascinating to watch, very fun to see it in detail. And I've purchased one hot toy and it's still not here. But it will be the only one I own. I did buy Hunter from the Bad Batch.
Nice.
So I'm very excited for when it gets here one day. It felt like I really love Echo as well. I went back and forth on which one should I buy. The reason I went with Hunter, I mean, there's a couple reasons, but Hunter's like the leader of the group. You know what I mean? He's kind of like he's the dad. He's like it felt like if I'm going to have one, because I can't afford to buy all of them, they are releasing the whole Bad Batch. But if I'm just going to have one, it felt like Hunter was probably the best one to have solo. But I love Echo and his design as well.
Have they released like pictures of all of them yet?
They've done Wrecker. They showed a couple at, I forget which con.
Because I was going to say,
and Wrecker and
because I know they've been using Mira Morrison's features for these hot toys. I haven't seen the Wrecker one, and I was like, I wonder what this is going to look like.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick what's kind of funny is I love the new armor, the kind of worn fit.
I got it pulled up here. I'm looking at it. Yeah, that's perfect.
They've got this kind of, and you can pre-order the Wrecker one. Oh, not yet. Okay, you can pre-order Crosshair, but they do have Wrecker listed on their site. It's fantastic. I love it. I love the design of the Bad Batch. I mean, it's just such a fun. I don't know. It's just
if I were to get one of the hot toys, it would definitely be that Luke Skywalker from A New Hope, the one with the poncho option.
Yeah,
that was so dope.
That's a great one. I agree.
I
love the design of the. I love the design of the Bad Batch. I think it's just so fun. Like it makes you feel like a kid, when you're watching it, in all the right ways, like in all the best ways. Mm-hmm. Maybe I will. I might over here have Hunter pulled up. Maybe I'll have to kind of share my screen and everyone could admire how cool of a hot toy he is. Okay, fine. Stop pulling my leg. I'll do it. All right, everyone. Don't worry. Let's see here.
What is happening?
Okay, it's loading. There. Okay, fine. I'll show you guys.
His helmet is so cool.
I do. I love the.
Yeah, he looks amazing. He looks just like Tamara Morrison.
He does. Yeah, let's see. There's a close up of his face on here.
Like once this Black Series helmet comes out, instant cop.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, that's a good call, Jimmy. We need that in our life. Like, look at how cool that looks. You gotta love it. I love it. I'm so excited. But it
was such a clever choice to put Tamir Morrison's face on these.
Yeah,
it is. It's really cool. It's really fun. One day, live action Bad Batch. We need it in our lives. Looks great. I love the Bad Batch. I'm very excited to be back. I think it was a good start. I love what you guys said, where it felt like a continuation of the first season. That really does. I think nail it. It felt like we never left, even though it's been a year. But what it promised in the first episode, as I kind of wrap this up, things are about to change. The group is about to go through a transition. They're starting to question their purpose. They're starting to try to find Omega's growing up and being able to do more on her own. It seems like they're. I do not expect this season to be every episode being they're doing a job for Sid. I'm sure we'll have some of that, but it seems like they're starting to want to find more. And I think is it less episodes in season 1? It's 16 for season 2. I think there was 20 for season 1.
Let me pull up.
No, I think about the same count.
Is it? Look, I couldn't remember if it was more. Okay, 16. So it's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're gonna have the same amount of episodes to tell this story, and I think it's gonna go to different places. And we haven't got a confirmed end date for the show, so this could be the last season. This could be our last adventure with the Bad Batch. I think what they'll probably do. I'm just
based on those titles, man.
Yeah. Based on nothing, my guess is like they'll do a shorter third season, like a 8 episode kind of conclusion. But we'll see. I had no idea. I
have a different theory. Just looking at it from a technical standpoint, the amount of work put into each episode looks to me personally, look from a technical level like it's going for the long run. I think a lot is going to depend on the popularity of the show.
Yeah.
If the ratings are high, if the viewership is high, they're going to continue. If it's going to slow down, it's going to basically go the Resistance route. It's like, 2 seasons and done.
I will tell you one thing I noticed when I looked at Disney Plus's top viewed properties of last year, and it's hard to tell officially because Disney doesn't really do the official numbers, so you kind of have to do some API scoring. But Star Wars performed significantly better than almost any of their other properties, than the Marvel shows. But I think people assume that because Marvel's been so hot in the last 10 years and rightfully so, that the Marvel properties are just killing it. But no, Star Wars is outperforming anything on Disney Plus. And as we've talked about, or this is my personal opinion, I think Star Wars on TV feels really right, especially in animated. It just feels really, really good. And with Andor kind of giving us another home run, it feels like Star Wars has a lot of kind of built up. They've started to build up, I think, a lot of goodwill with the fans when it comes to these shows. So
yeah, I'm getting a little burnt out on the shows.
You're ready for the movies? You ready for a movie?
Yeah, I'm ready for some movies. Like the animated stuff is fine. All the live action stuff that has been announced since 2020. I know, and there's still more. I've said it so many times. I think I mentioned it to Ben on Twitter the other day. Everything that was announced in 2020, that big slate of shows, and the 2 or 3 that were added in, I'm fine with that. After that's all finished and done with, let's take a break.
It's never going to stop. There is not going to be a break.
No, I know.
It's not Star Wars means you're like there is every new holiday season, you're going to get more Star Wars.
And here's the thing, because when more shows are announced, I'm still going to be excited. So I'm just going to be like, whatever.
Well, what, and it's totally fair. Because a lot of people in the fandom, I think, feel the way you do, Jimmy. What's exciting to me, I guess, what's energizing to me is I do like that some of the batch of shows coming up, there is some really unique things. Like Skeleton Crew has got me really excited. Like, ooh, that feels really fresh.
That 1.5 second clip we got had me excited. So
yeah, and it's like Visions is coming back, which this crew right here adore. I mean, I watch Visions back all the time. I listen to the soundtrack. It's on my most played on Spotify like every year for the Village Bride in particular.
Village Bride, exactly.
But like, there's enough of those really exciting projects that even the ones like, it's funny, Mandalorian season 3 is probably my least anticipated Star Wars project of the year.
Yep.
I have a feeling that it will be really enjoyable, but I'm more looking forward to the newer things. The Skeleton Crew, I'm excited to see what they do with Ahsoka. Acolyte is up there. It feels like those are going different places.
Acolyte's my number one, baby.
But we shall see. I will tell you, because this is a good little segue. There was one thing that came out this week there's a couple things, but one in particular that got me really excited. And it's about a possible development on the Star Wars gaming front, where they have been on a hot streak recently. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. For those who don't know, Ubisoft is working on another Star Wars game. And Julian Girardi, I do not know how to pronounce this individual's name, so I apologize, is a creative director at Ubisoft. So this is an official kind of employee here. And they tweeted at the first of the year, they said, "Happy New Year to all. 2023 is going to be huge for us. Join the adventure. Massive Star Wars." So the company is Massive Entertainment, who's owned by Ubisoft. And people were like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to get a new Star Wars game in 2023. Well, pump the brakes, because he does clarify it a couple days later saying, "Hey, this seems to, sparked a lot of interest. To be clear, I meant 2023 is going to be huge for our team building the game." So they're going to do a lot of development this year. We can expect this game is going to come out in 2024. But it is official source that's from a Ubisoft employee. And then a little more detail about this project started to come out today. And we've been hearing rumors about this for a long time. And these go right in line with it. Again, coming from like Bespin Bulletin and another resource, Daniel, I'm totally blanking on his last name, but he does a bunch of movie news. And he is right on a lot of rumors. I've seen him be right a lot. So I do give him a little credibility. Supposedly, the game is this Ubisoft game that they tweeted about is going to boast a fully open, seamless universe akin to what's found in like No Man's Sky. In the game, players will be able to jump between systems, immersing themselves in a vast galaxy with just tons of activities to do. So we've heard for a long time this is supposed to be an open world game, which we've all been like sweet. Like that we got a huge galaxy here. Like it'd be great to do some planet hopping. And it seems that's what is going to be coming. And I have to tell you, like, we all love this idea, right? Everyone know, like, anyone not love the idea of a good Star Wars game that's open world, of course, right? It's all about the execution. I'm always a little reserved because open world games, it feels like, have hit kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Subpar.
Saturation. Yeah, we're a little inflated with them, and a lot of them don't give you that many interesting things to do. But when they work, they are some of the best, most immersive experiences, and I would love that for Star Wars in 2024. That would be really, really great. What do you guys think?
I'm kind of wary after the comparison to the No Man's Sky, which, if we're going to deal with the planet generating kind of engine, which is basically in the No Man's Sky, if you played it for more than 20 hours, is basically you start seeing the recycled assets, the recycled patterns and activities, and it just becomes same thing, different template. And I really, really hope they're not going to go this route. I don't want anything like an cooperative online multiplayer experience, microtransaction, grow your thing, get those crystals. I'm more of a proponent of a Skyrim type of open world games where it's your experience, you're the single player, and the world is an undiscovered country. It's like the Zelda Breath of the Wild. It really doesn't point you to the next location to go. It's just all out there for you to explore. But it gives you, like you mentioned earlier, Josh, different things to do, experience the world, climb, dive, find treasure, be a smuggler, not necessarily a Jedi. If you're a Jedi, maybe you could do something non-traditional. Maybe you start over in a small village with a master training you solo one-on-one. Something different, something like goes off the beaten path and introduces new elements into the open world. I'll cheer for it. Give me a freaking Star Wars action game where you don't have to be a Jedi.
A couple things before we pass it to Jimmy. You're right. It does not say if it's single player or multiplayer. I have no idea. And that does greatly change the type of expectations you might have. So that's good to monitor. I'm not sure if they think that the world will be procedurally generated, or they were just, I don't know if this individual is just saying, hey, if you've ever played No Man's Sky, there is a really, and again, to your point, Ben, it can kind of wear out, but there is a really engaging, there's a really great feeling of being able to hop in your ship and literally just leave the atmosphere and just like go somewhere else. Like you don't have to like open a menu and toggle and say, okay, I want to go to that planet. And then there's a cutscene and you're there. There's something really, really fun about being like, hey, I'm just going to fly off this planet and go somewhere else. So if that's what they are intending, that would be, I think, really fun. And yeah, it doesn't say anything about it being a Jedi game, does it? It does not say you're going to be a Jedi, which could be really fun. I'm open for it, but maybe it is more like a bounty hunter, smuggler, trader. That could be really interesting. We haven't seen that really outside of the Battlefront games, which are first-person shooters where you can take, or third-person shooters where you can take up those roles. We haven't been like, hey, I just have I want to be on Hondo's crew. I want to be a pirate. That would be the fun thing. Jimmy, what about you, my man? Star Wars gaming. How do you feel about this?
I will say this though. If they're going to compare it to No Man's Sky now, it'll be one of the greatest games ever made, because No Man's Sky today is phenomenal.
Totally different game. Yeah.
No Man's Sky from launch, trash.
Yeah.
They put a lot back into that game to ramp it up to be what it should have been from the start, and now it is truly an incredible experience of a game.
Yeah.
When it comes to this game, I'm gonna be the negative Nancy here. I'm not excited for it at all because I don't know if it's gonna happen.
No, it's going to 100% happen because it's Ubisoft. If they're not going to invest, there's hardly been a Ubisoft project on this scale that was announced and just chopped off the top. I mean, it does happen. It's a possibility. I'm not saying no, but I'm almost sure it's going to happen.
There's just, regardless of company, there's been such a horrid track record with the games. And yeah, Ubisoft has Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, and those are big hits. Maybe the success of those will allow this game to go into fruition, like absolutely. But it's just, when it comes to these games, like between this and Eclipse and all the other that other open world game that got canned, I don't even remember who was in charge of that one. There's just a horrible track record with the games being just destroyed in development to the point where they just stopped. So
Yeah. Wasn't BioWare also leading one of the Star Wars
Yeah.
games that was never announced? And
Yeah.
it was like it's never been mentioned ever since.
I've heard of, in my head, off the top of my head, and chat, you can keep me honest
Mhm.
here. There are like 3 Star Wars games that come to my mind when in development. There's the
There's
Eclipse,
an RTS game.
right? There's Eclipse, which we know a little bit about. There's the RTS game. There was this open world game. I guess you're right. There was some sort of BioSoft rumored, because the property left Ubisoft exclusivity, right? If I recall.
No, even before the remake of the KOTOR, even before that, I recall them saying that BioWare is working on a secret Star Wars project.
Yeah, it's a good.
I think I remember something like that. Yeah,
Right?
because I was like, oh, BioWare, they made other good stuff.
Well,
so, you know, I was looking forward to a lot of these. So yeah,
to Jimmy's point, yeah, I
can see a strong argument for this game happening because Ubisoft has already nailed 2 projects that have gone through it, have come out, and everything's fine.
Yeah,
but you know, I understand that's how the game of announcements works. Is you announce it like 7 years in the making.
yeah.
But I just
it's far away. It's far away.
I will not be surprised if we never hear of this project again. I will be happy when we do.
For me, I'll be the optimist of the group. I'm hoping that the tweet of, hey, we're going to start working on this game in 2023 means we're going to have a lot of time to build this game out right. No release date, no window. It didn't say coming holiday 2024. You know, it just said, hey, we're going to kick this game off. It's not how the video game industry works, but if they have enough time, I think that'd be the most encouraging thing, because this sounds like it sounds like it's going to print money. You put the Star Wars Galaxy, an open world game, go have a bunch of fun. But we've seen time and time again that these games can overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
Don't expect that. To Ben's point, we've already seen a narrative focused story such as Jedi Fallen Order has given us a really tight, rewarding experience that's elevated Star Wars video gaming as a whole. And so it doesn't have to be this big, crazy open world, game. You can keep it tight and give the audience a really rewarding story.
I just don't think an open world Star Wars game will work.
I mean, we have the Old Republic.
Yeah,
MMO. It works if it's done right.
Here, if to make one that's not an MMO, I just don't think it'll work.
Yeah. A single player, to your point, to create a single player vast experience that doesn't bore you to sleep, that's an ultimate challenge.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, being able to create a seamless game where you could travel to X amount of planets. It's just, you know, the space required to make something like that. And
it's what Bethesda is trying to give us with Starfield, right? I mean, that's what they're promising us, is an open world space solo game.
And I'm very, you know, hesitant on that too. I mean, you know, in theory, it would be one of the greatest games ever made if you could fully traverse all of these Star Wars planets. You know, maybe not all of them, but, you know, even I just feel like it would turn into what KOTOR and KOTOR 2 were, where, you know, there's 5 or 6 planets you can visit. You can only go to this specific area of the planet.
Yeah. But it's content rich.
That would And I mean, and that would be great. It's just, you know, I feel like it wouldn't be as open world as we imagine it to
I
be.
get it. Yeah.
It would definitely be, you can only go here, you can't turn here, you know.
Well, and to be fair to them, these are speculation from supposed insiders, as opposed to Ubisoft hasn't made these promises. So, you know, maybe the person is overstating what they.
Yeah.
To your guys' point, it might be like 10 planets you can go to, and those 10 planets are very rich of things to do, and it's better than 100 planets of just landing and getting crossed.
Because the only way I could see this work is if this game was released with maybe 3 fully explorable planets, because that would keep you busy for a while, and then you would get other planets as DLC. That's the only way I could see that working.
A perfect formula. First, it doesn't take 10 years to develop. You give the fans maybe at a $40, $50 discounted price, kind of like, hey, here's the launching 3-planet deal. See if you enjoy this type of game. If you like it, we will give you new planets as a DLC coming later on with like some freebies, as a CD Projekt was doing with The Witcher. Yeah. Remember, in between every major DLC, that would give you a lot of cool freebies, including storylines.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even then, like, I wouldn't even mind paying for that DLC, because if the three base planets we're going to get are going to be out of this world, fully explorable, all these experiences, a bunch of side quests. Yeah, I'd pay for more of that. But that's the only way I can see it happening, just because. I mean, I may be completely wrong because I'm not that adversed in like how technological this stuff can get, but I just don't see being able to physically create something like that and it not need like a terabyte of space or something.
To this point, I can tell you this, right? I don't know if you ever looked at the size of the No Man's Sky. I usually play it on my PlayStation 5. Yeah. It's barely 20 gigs.
Yeah, the graphics engine
basically it's mostly built on this cool little new engine that they created, which basically uses pre-made assets, and it basically creates planets on the fly for you. That's why they can't be story rich or content rich, because you have to hand tool and hand make everything. Like, for example, in Mass Effect series, which we can compare to Star Wars the most, the reason that it's so evocative and people remember it after a decade of the release is that it's handcrafted storytelling. You can't create it via engine, because it kind of works for No Man's Sky. You're a solo dude. You're just out there. You're just exploring.
Yeah. To Gavin's point here, there's a couple other comments I want to pull up, but I said if you make it a single planet, it could work. But then what's the point of keeping it Star Wars? Well, they could go the path of like a city, right? Like a Grand Theft Auto or Cyberpunk, where if you have a location inside of a larger planet that's extremely content rich, you could execute it in that way. I don't think that's what they're going for.
That planet from Obi-Wan, that would be a good one.
I think of like Spider. Okay, so different genres of games. I said Grand Theft Auto, I said Cyberpunk, but think of like even Marvel Spider-Man for PlayStation, now PC. Like it's absolutely phenomenal. It's just New York City. Like you're just kind of, because the movement system is phenomenal and the combat's enjoyable, you keep it to one city and you can keep it kind of full of things to do.
Yeah, it was basically a 1-to-1 scale of Manhattan.
It's awesome. I adore both those games, Miles Morales sequel and everything. Additionally, I saw, let's see, a second ago.
Just make Darth Maul Shadowhunter a game.
For me, I think, look, we'll see, and we'll get all sorts of promises. I agree with what you guys are saying in the sense that it is very, very hard to make an open world game that has an engaging story or activities to really want you to travel to 10, 15 planets. Most of us would prefer like a tight world where you couldn't just go everywhere, but what you could do was so rewarding, you wanted to keep doing it.
See, that's the other thing. Like if they released this game with like 15 or so planets, like I'd be so overwhelmed. I'd be like, I don't even know what to do.
Or they'd likely be hollow. I get it. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. We shall see. I guess it depends what the game is. The game could be, I think Scott, or maybe it was, I forget who said it earlier. It's like, it could be like you're back in the High Republic as a wayfinder, just exploring uncharted space, setting up communication towers. Like that's the whole game. You're not even like, there's not even cities. You're just kind of as a space frontier. Could be fun. Could be fun for sure. Look, at the end of the day, for me, Star Wars has, I'm thinking in the last 2 or 3 Star Wars games I played, it's been the Skywalker Saga Lego, it's been Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm probably missing one game, maybe Battlefront. Oh no, it's the ship Rogue Squadron, but what is it called?
Squadrons.
Thank you, Squadrons. Those 3 games.
There were a couple of mobile games, right?
Yeah.
Mostly canceled. Yeah. The RTS one was actually pretty good on the iOS and Android.
Squadrons, yeah. So the last AAA launches of Squadrons, Fallen Order, and the Skywalker Saga were all A+ for me. I loved all those games. I played all of them. So if they keep that quality, every 3 or 4 years we get a great Star Wars game. I mean, hey, that's awesome. And when it comes to the case of Jedi Fallen Order and hopefully Survivor, they told some really good stories there. And it wasn't.
We also have what's the Star Wars game coming to Switch?
Arena or something like that.
Yeah, Star Wars Arenas or whatever.
It got delayed, didn't it, to this year?
I think so. Yeah. I think it looks fun. I'm gonna enjoy that.
It's like Overwatch for Star Wars.
It's like Overwatch and like League.
I'm here for it. I love you MOBAs. I play a lot of MOBAs. All right, well, that was kind of what I want to talk about in the new game, but I did want to show you guys one thing. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this. Let me see if I can get it. So over the Christmas break, they showed the collector's edition cover for Fallen Order. It looks so pretty. I wanted folks to see this because we didn't have a chance to talk about it because it was over the holiday break. But they released this artwork, which will be on the collector's edition.
Is that the limited run games collector edition?
I don't know actually where you get this. I'll have to take a peek. But this is the deluxe edition cover, and I love it. It's super like evocative of retro Star Wars posters.
Get me with artwork every time.
It's gorgeous, and I don't know. See, I'm a digital guy. I buy my video games digitally. I just love to not have to worry about storing them, and I love the fact that I can easily access them. But I need this cover in my life. You know what I mean? So what am I going to do about that? Because it's gorgeous.
I want that framed.
I would love this frame. Let me look.
Put it on your computer's desktop and just be.
Yeah, really.
That's actually. I mean, you're speaking my language there.
You're speaking my language. Yeah.
So if I go to the Epic Games Store, let's see here. Well, interesting. So I'm wondering if they're selling. I assume they're selling a physical copy of the game. But if you go to the Epic Games Store, let me go ahead and share my screen.
As far as I know, at this point, only the limited run games has the physical special edition.
Yeah. Okay. It seems like games companies are more and more going that way. But you'll see here on the listing, they do show it with the different art. I over-zoomed here. They do show it with the deluxe edition art. So maybe the limited physical copies will keep this, but it's really pretty. I'm quite a fan. I really enjoy it. What comes with it? Didn't we talk about this? Oh, it's just the additional cosmetics.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'd look great as Obi-Wan Kenobi Cal Kestis, but what are you going to do? All right, that's enough spending money for this Star Wars fan. Just kidding. There'll always be more to do. Those are the main news stories since this group last met I wanted to cover as we head into this new year. But let me open it up to the triangle.
Didn't you mention like a new show or something?
Oh, that's right. Okay, so as part of those Star Wars, this is a very minor nugget, but as the same source that talked about the open world Star Wars game development said there is another Mandalorian show in development. Let me clarify when I say Mandoverse. I'm talking about Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, kind of that universe, Mandoverse, New Republic. That has a working title called Ghost Track 17. So apparently there's been some internal documents referring to this show. That's its working title, and it's going to take place in the same kind of Mando space. Which I believe because they seem to... I think Book of Boba Fett showed something they're going to do more of, which is a one-off mini-series almost following an aspect of the Mandoverse. I think they're going to do that again.
I will be very upset if we don't get a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett.
I think they're going to probably continue that story via the other shows. It feels like that's the way they're you know what I mean? That's just how it feels. They're kind of like, hey, here's Boba Fett now. He's going to be a reoccurring character in Mando.
I mean, that would be kind of cool. Because that would just kind of, and if it all like fits together, that would kind of just feel like a one of those like short story books, like Tales from the Mos Eisley Canteen, like those kind of books,
The Marvelization of Star Wars really works because now we have the Disney streaming service platform, and they can almost treat it as one giant source book. And hey, by the way, you checked out this particular show 2 years after. What happened to that particular character that seemed to resonate with fans? Let's have a one-off streaming special or a feature film direct to streaming service, something like a mini series, micro series. It could work potentially well, because I did not anticipate Tales of the Jedi to be this good. It's so short, but it's so sweet. It's like you turned a different chapter in your Star Wars encyclopedia. It's like, hey, I was really interested. I wasn't looking for this particular info, but it was an exciting new look at Count Dooku, like one of my favorite characters. It could work.
I totally agree. And in a way, like this is going to sound stupid, but you can almost prevent your show from being bogged down. So Mandalorian could become like, hey, a couple episodes of Mandalorian, and then we go spend an episode or two checking out what's going on over there with Boba Fett's crime kingdom, and you have a couple episodes with him, and then you come back, which is what they did in Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett did that formula. They said, hey, here's a couple episodes with us. Oh, let's go see how our buddy Mando's doing. All right, let's come back.
Like an anthology.
Exactly. You could start doing that. Like, hey, in this show, you just get a bunch of every character, and if it's executed well, it could be fun. And so supposedly this working title of Ghost Track 17 is going to be another story in the New Republic era. To me personally, the only limitations on the Mandoverse, the New Republic era, is pretty soon you're going to run out of time, and you're going to have to start explaining where the heck the new, this new empire rose up. Like, where did the First Order pop up from? They show up 3 years ago. So I feel like you don't have as much playground as maybe they would like. And maybe that's good. So the show won't run forever, because I don't think any of us want 16 seasons of The Mandalorian. I think we'd probably all like it to have a conclusion that's, an actual kind of bow on it. We'll see. Maybe that'll be season 3. But I doubt it, because I'm pretty sure Jon Favreau said he's already writing season 4. So I have a feeling
I think didn't they say like you're supposed to only have like 4 or 5 seasons?
Yeah, it will be. It will not run forever. It just can't. It wouldn't be very good. But
yeah,
I'm hoping it has a satisfying ending, because I honestly really enjoyed a lot of what the Mandalorians brought into Star Wars. I hope it has a tight conclusion, because I don't want it to like end. It sounds stupid, like sounds obvious, but how you end a story is so important to how I remember the full experience. If you end on a sour note, I tend to forget all of the great. It's like The Force Awakens, which I loved. I barely revisit the film because I hate what comes after it. Not just the movies, by the way. I mean, like, all the toxicity that came up in the fandom.
Right.
It's like the whole thing is tainted for me. Like, I don't even want to deal with, it's like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And so I hope that doesn't happen for Mandalorian, but we shall see. And I agree. This is a perfect way to end. I'm ready to move past Skywalker Saga. We all are. Like, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is something different. We're all ready. All the fans
3,000 years in the future, please.
40,000 years in the future. Star Wars cool Hammer too. 40K. What? No. The crossover we all needed. The crossover we all wanted. All right, boys. Welcome back. I'm excited for a year full of Star Wars. I know it's been busy time for everyone. I'm recovering from being sick. Jimmy's recovering from a new job, and Ben's recovering.
I might be getting sick right now.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben's recovering from being so damn beautiful. Thanks, Ben, for being here.
There you go.
You're welcome, guys.
As we wrap it up, any other closing thoughts, guys? I think that was it for me today. Anything else that was on your radar you wanted to highlight?
High Republic Phase 2 is kicking ass, man. It's so good. I've thrown the reviews up for the comics as fast as I can. This new job's making life a little tough. But the first 3 issues of the new High Republic comic are just incredible. Issue 1 of The Blade, fabulous. I think, Ben, I think you're really going to like that one. I haven't read the High Republic Adventures yet. I need to do that, but I am nearly done with the Battle of Jeddah audio drama. Guys, I'm telling you.
I'm really excited for it.
The story has made me understand how organized religion functions. I swear. I was telling Josh this off stream, and I'm not going to get too controversial with it, clearly, because I mentioned religion. But, growing up, I grew up with Star Wars, so it was always near and dear to my heart. I'm not very religious myself, but I have friends that grew up, with religion since they were 4 years old, to the point where, when someone told them, they're not religious, they were like, oh my goodness, what? And, and like us today, when someone's like, oh, I've never seen Star Wars, a lot of the times we're like, what? It kind of like blows your mind. So as we're learning about the path of the open hand in Phase 2 of the High Republic, they are very much against using the Force in any way, shape, or form. They think Jedi are like truly sinning for using it. They are damaging the Force.
I love that idea.
Now, we've all grown up with Jedi and Sith and Force users. We think it's cool. So when I'm like listening to this audio drama or in any of the other books, when a Jedi is speaking to a member of the Path of the Open Hand, and they're just like, you think you're all high and mighty because you can control the Force. Well, guess what? Karma's going to get you because you're not supposed to be using. And I'm like getting filled with rage. I'm like, oh, why? You're so wrong. And I'm like, oh, now I understand it.
Yeah.
But
nothing good comes out of it, Jimmy. The whole galaxy gets corrupted by that. Okay.
And here's the thing, because I went, I mentioned it on Twitter too. I was just like, this is ridiculous, but I think this is proof that these characters are written so well, and the idea of this villainous group is done so well to the point where I am like irrationally angry at a fictional character. I'm like, excuse you? No,
that
you're
only
just
speaks to
completely
the
wrong.
power.
You're just wrong. You're plain wrong. They're not real.
It
It's
speaks to the
not real.
power of good
Look,
writing. I love when good writers take Star Wars formula and turn it on its head. And I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of naysayers, a lot of expanded universe purists, like, oh, they're
yeah.
doing this now. Where expanded, the irony of that is that the expanded universe itself was introducing so many new concepts that are so unconventional and made you look into the Star Wars universe in a completely different way, to kind of like, it's almost like an antithesis to say like, well, that's not true, that's not so. It is the essence of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Constantly push the boundaries and make you question, like, are the Jedi the good guys or not?
Yeah.
Because one of the big things right now with the High Republic Phase 2 is a thing that's happening called the it's not congregation, it's convocation. And they're bringing in all of these religious groups that worship the Force. They even call it all by different names. They all can use the Force, but again, they refer to it in a different way. And they're all meeting in this big like round table thing. And I'm like, this is so fascinating to find all of these different groups that believe in the Force, but they use it in a different title. And then you got the Path of the Open Hand, which they're just like, you shouldn't use it. It's like the second Salemers from the Fantastic Beast movie. They're just like completely just rude, evil, naysaying people. And I'm just like, wow,
Hey,
what a way to upset me out of nowhere. So I'm like, this is just great writing to the point where I'm like, I'm literally screaming at characters in my drive home. They're like, he's like, well, he died because he was a Jedi. I was like, no, he died because you murdered him with the leveler.
Hey. I like it. I love that concept a lot. We talked about that when they previewed it. I really like that concept. Gavin, your question. Yes, I am the Sanderson fan. I did not support his secret project last year with the books because I don't read physical books enough that I knew if I got like 5 physical books, I would just never read them. But I did support his most recent Kickstarter, which was figures of the characters from the Stormlight Archive. So I did back that project. And I'm excited because if you guys know anything, I will collect figures. I might not read physical books, but I will collect physical figures. Hey, I forgot one other little fun thing as we wrap. I want everyone to be able to sleep well tonight. If you haven't seen this, I saw this wonderful picture of some of the original concept modeling for Jar Jar. And I want everyone to have nightmares in their sleep when they see this horrifying figure emerge in there. And this is Jar Jar as a Sith. Like this is the design here. Thank God we didn't get this. Am I right? Because it could have been
disgusting.
This is something out of a Tim Burton movie.
It could have been much worse, guys. And with that, thank you guys so much for being here. We will be back again next week. Hope you guys had a good start to your year. Looking forward to more Star Wars. See y'all again very soon.